Why are you so adamant to push everyone to see what they're capable of doing?
Yeah, I think it's our job as employers to push people to that point where to see what they're capable of. And they are, they're doing everything we ask them to do, but it's our job to continue to elevate them.
Welcome to the Premium Mindset, the weekly podcast where homegrown entrepreneurs and business owners, Evan Richie and Cameron Bawden, share the good, the bad, and the ugly of modern entrepreneurship and reveal what really happens behind the scenes of their personal and professional lives. As owners of two of America's fastest growing and most disruptive companies, Coconut Cleaning and Green Mango Pest Control, stay tuned for real stories, struggles, insight, and advice from real entrepreneurs in real time.
What's going on? Welcome to today's episode where Cameron and I are going to take a deep dive on how to maximize not only your time and the ROI on your time, but also your employees and how to get them to do more and also make more. I think both of us, a topic sticks out from when Tommy was talking that I've talked to two of the people in the 1% Club since about how he said, your CSR picks up 20 calls, my CSR picks up 60. And I think in a day. And I think it's never where you and I differ, but I think our bandwidth or capacity to test the employee's bandwidth is different between you and I as far as what people should be capable of doing. And so that's been on my mind the last week, because you and I differ in that if I'm with the people and they're saying, hey, I can do this, I can do that, or taking on this project a little much, and you're like, dude, I watch the top performers in this space and service, and their people just operate differently. And it's not about necessarily the wrong people right out the gate, but are we not providing enough resources, the right software, the right standards, the right pay? And so why are you so adamant to push everyone to see what they're capable of doing? Sometimes, in my opinion, at someone's mental expense. Not really that drastic, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it's our job as employers to push people to not that breaking point, but to that point where to see what they're capable of. And this is where we do
breaking point.
Yeah, but some of my greatest moments have been at those times where I pushed through and I was able to achieve more than I thought I was able to. And that's where I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs sell themselves short with their people, is just their bar is so low. And I'm sure they are busy, but it's just maximizing what are you doing with those 8 hours? And it's good, better, and best. And so with Tommy, he's been able to set the bar. And so it's when you come in, this is what's capable of achieving this. And I don't think a lot of his people are happy. I've never met, and I'm sure there's over 500 employees now, he was saying, that aren't happy. But of all the people that we've seen and worked with, have you ever seen anyone that's miserable?
No.
And I think that's the key, is that he's helping people achieve greatness, but he's taking care of them along the way. And maybe that's where I've gone in the wrong, is I'll push people to that breaking point, and then they are broken, or they break, or they quit because I didn't figure out that incentive pay or how to compensate them appropriately at the top. But where I think you and I kind of go back and forth is I know everyone's busy, but my whole thing is but are they being productive with how we want them to be busy?
Right.
And that's where you and I don't know how personal you want to get into Coconut and kind of the challenges that we're facing right now. But that's where I would just kind of test the system of, hey, do you want to get how much are you wanting to share? Do you want to get into this right now?
Here's what I'll say. Let me frame this, because let me show the public.
Sugarcoat it.
Let me show the public how we have this dialogue, because people always ask me all the time, every day. They say, how do you do it? Partner with Cameron.
He's such a prick.
No, but again, here's, I'm not going to say the dark side, but here's the hard side of partnering with you. I've never met someone whose standards and expectations are so high. And because I think I genuinely think it's because how I was raised, right? Where my dad always said, be easily entreated.
Be easily what?
Be easily entreated. So what that means is that
Be
like
easily and treated?
ENTREAT.
Entreated.
Entreated.
What does that mean?
So be easily entreated is like the analogy of like a river rock that's smoothed out, that it's not this disruptor. You don't go in and you're a disruptor of conversation. You're a disruptor of like ideas and thought. And so if you have some feedback for me, someone who might be engaged in ego is like, hey, this is my opinion. This is what I think. Like this, I'm being you for a second. I really just don't think that we're pushing people hard enough. And it's not always about pushing them hard, but you'll say, I don't think that we have them focusing on the right things. Or if we were to dangle a certain carrot in front of them, it's funny how all of a sudden they can do 10 other things, right? So being easily entreated is go on, like me saying, go on. Okay, go on. So what are some applications that I can take from this conversation? It's a very smooth and easy conversation. Even though I may not agree, or even though I may have differing opinions, being easily entreated is like not being a disruptor of people's flow. And so one thing I feel like I've done well, not with you, but I think what makes this work is that I genuinely look at you, yes, as a friend and a partner, but also as a mentor. And so, and I saved a quote the other day too. In my walks, every man I meet is my superior in some way, and in that, I learn from him. I've mostly always given you deference. I challenge sometimes, not in the spirit of contention, but in the spirit of,
Yeah, I think that's healthy.
hey, I don't think most business is just one single or right way. And so let's go in depth, let's go personal, and we can give the viewers a in-depth perspective on how you approach a situation and problem at Coconut. Maybe my feedback or dialogue and how I can extract the most from you. And then what I do with that information, or I guess what I'm willing to do with that information and the applications that come from that feedback. Because to the listener, I'd say the worst person you run into when you gain some sort of notoriety that you have something to offer in the business world is what is termed as an asshole. Of someone that just asks and asks and asks and they do nothing with the information. I will say, despite my stubbornness, that when you give me a directive or a task, I will apply it faster and execute, even if it's to see if it fails, so I can come back rather than like talk about it for forever. Yeah. So I'll say, you have this feedback, you have this initiative, I will go execute at a fast rate. And so with that being said, what are your issues with Coconut? It's 7.5 years in. It's not making money like it should. We rolled over a bit of the executive team with their team from the Green Mango sale into Coconut, marketing and finance, where normally a company our size wouldn't have that amount of overhead. And for being almost 8 years old, it's not where you think it should be. Is that fair?
Yeah. Okay. And I think what kind of like, and we talked about this when we sold it last October, right? Like, hey, what do we want to do with the marketing team? What do we want to do with the finance team? We decided at the time, like, double down because of the play. But what has sparked me so much with Tommy is just, dude, I don't want to make excuses as to why we're not at the margins that we want to be at. And
this isn't like Cameron saying, Evan, we're at 29, I want 34. This is like, we're at 5. We're at 5.
Yep, 5 to 11 is where we've been averaging. And and this is where it's like, I almost said it right now. It's like, well, we focused a lot on Green Mango, and that's why Coconut took the back burner. And that's what I'm tired of doing. And that's what I'm tired of entrepreneurs doing in their business is, oh, I've only been in business for 1 year. Like, I shouldn't be profitable. You know, you should be profitable, but what you do with those profits, you know, I have an opinion on. But don't like let these excuses come in and rob you of your dreams. And that's my problem if you like, it's all the great problems. I think Coconut's a great company. I love being your partner. Like, we have a lot of great people there. And so like, this is fun, right? And it's a challenge because it is frustrating. Like, I feel like, and I was telling you this the other day, it's like, dude, I feel like I'm so good at business. I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot, but like, I get stumped at Coconut sometimes. And like, that's really frustrating for me. And so this is a great challenge. But when I look at how do we have our cake and eat it too? You know, I tell James, I was talking to him this morning, James, our CFO, yeah. And I'm not trying to get off topic here, but it's like, hey, I want to take my money and 4X it in the next 10 years. What do I have to do? And I want to make this much every single year. Because a lot of it's, hey, if you have your compounding growth for what you do with your money and not, you know, take as much money each year, then you can get to this number. And I said, no, I want my cake and I want to eat it too. How do I, like, what do I need to do to get there? Like, just tell me what I need to do. Like, your opinion, like, show me where to chip. And so I want to run a company that's 24, 25% margins at Coconut while scaling up to grow for franchising, because our narrative right now is, hey, we're going to have this heavy accounting team. We're going to have this heavy marketing team so that we can scale up to 11 franchises, because that's when we'll break even is our numbers that we feel like is there. And I'm saying, no, like, we could have it today and it's not like Kate's our manager and our CFO.
We just zoom out a little bit.
Yeah. Kate's our manager for our CMO. James is our CFO. They're the heads of those departments. It's less to do about them. It's more, it always comes back to us as the owner. Like, what's our management skill set to train them to be able to fulfill it? Because one of my most frustrating things that I had with, and I'll use James first as an example. I love James. He's been a huge critical component to our success in forecasting and modeling and helping us have budgets and just tell us where we're at, which is so instrumental if you're any type of business, let alone home services. I call them today because a big part is James is wanting equity of the future because he sees the potential here. And my whole goal as the owner is like, James, if you want this, I have to help you think like an owner. What would you do with your team today? You have a team of, is it 4 or 5? There's 4. James, Jennifer, Mays,
and Shannon.
James, Jennifer, Mays, Shannon. I feel like there's a 5th, but there's 4. So for a company our size of $5 million, it doesn't make sense to have a CFO, period. Like, mainly you'll have like a controller, a bookkeeper, which is around $3,000 to $5,000 a month.
A true CFO.
Yes.
You can have a CFO at $60,000, but any CFO asking for that amount probably isn't true.
And so, like, first of all, okay, what did we say our payroll was? Around $20,000 a month for that whole team?
The finance team?
Yeah.
Yeah, $20,000.
$20,000 a month. So if a normal company operates around $3,000 to $5,000, we're $15,000 over budget to prepare for 11 franchises, right? And I'm saying, I'm frustrated because when Green Mango was here, that same team was having a difficult time keeping up on Green Mango reports and Coconut reports.
I think they confessed to they just didn't. It was just,
I'm trying to sound good here for them. Like, they didn't do it.
But they did an amazing job for the sell and all that.
They're great, which is why we kept them.
Yeah.
But my thing is like, hey, now that problem's away, and now there's just kind of this like, hey, we're okay to be heavy. There's no pressure being applied to them. And we're just going to expect that once 11 companies come up again and that pressure's there, that this same team, the same manager, James, the same owner, Cameron, giving James ownership is all of a sudden going to like be able to perform with 11 franchises. And I think your first thing is like, well, it's kind of really copy and paste. Like, it'll be kind of easier. Yeah, it might be easier. But at the same time, at the same time, okay, this is my problem. It's like this team is what it is. And we haven't changed any direction and training and leadership. I haven't trained James. Like, it starts with me. And so that's my problem with saying, okay, let's wait. You're saying 4 months. We can have 11 franchises in 4 months. I'm saying, cool, let's say 4 months, but maybe 7 or 8, even if we want to be really, we met with Jeff Dudden and, he scared us a lot of the things on franchising, dude. Like, he showed us the ugly, like how important it is to vet people. And, so let's say it's 7 months. We're $10,000 heavy, $15,000 heavy. $15,000 times 7 months is a lot of money. what is that? 120 grand, 130 grand.
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
What do you say? 15 grand times 7?
Yeah. 70, half. Yeah. It's like
105,000.
105. That's 105 grand over the next 7 months just in the accounting team. And then I tell James,
I agree there.
Yeah. So, and I tell James, we have this company, Fraction, who I've referred a lot of business over. And unless they're lying to me, they've said that they've been very happy. They range from $500 to $700. That's just bookkeeping, which is basically what Maze, Shannon, and Jennifer do, right? And I want James, like, I'm okay with spending that extra because I want that high level reporting that James offers and that oversight that he gives us. And so if a normal company is supposed to be $5 grand, like, let's go up to 10. So let's call it 10 grand heavy, right? So we're 70 grand over the next few months. That 70 grand or 10 grand extra a month, like, there's a company right now that's saying, we'll do your bookkeeping for $1,000 a month. And so instead of spending 70, we're spending 12 or seven grand. And that just makes sense to me, right? Unless, or it's like, hey, bring on the companies right now, because there's so many companies that ask, hey, we need a good bookkeeper, we need a good CFO, and you could become a Fraction and do that bookkeeping for them and grow the leadership as the team comes on of 11. And so, like, that same framework around the accounting team is exactly how I feel with the marketing team, because you're telling me if a Google guy or an SEO guy is doing such a great job, like, there's 4 or 5 companies out there that you could charge $2,500 a month on that could help subsidize it. And I don't think the expenditure coming out of Coconut could outweigh the good that could come from, you know, that extra money that we have to go put into Google Ads or other resources to amplify it. And my point is that this guy that we have, these full-time people, why, like, most agencies on one guy hires 6 to 8 companies to handle their Google ad. Like, their bandwidth is 6 to 8, but we're okay saying, hey, 1, because we want the most out of them. And so why don't we meet in the middle and get like a 4 companies at $2,500 a pop? That's 10 grand. That wipes out half our marketing team too.
I love it. I understand the principle of what you're saying. Where I get here's where I'm, and normally if this conversation was brought up at its conception of thought, there's different dialogue, right? But we've talked about this for a while. So I've had a lot of time to think about it. To me, it comes down to 2 things. It comes down to production per employee and the fact that our current marketing team, right? So I think a healthy number is 10 to 12% of marketing spend proportionate to your revenue. Would you say like that's a healthy goal?
I mean, some people say 20%.
Historically, we've been between 17 and 21%.
Mm-hmm.
So here's how you look. Here's how you have to look at.
Who told us 10% of what your revenue goal is? So if we want to be a $20 million company, who said that?
That was
I was with you, right?
Was that not Tommy?
Maybe. That guy's crazy.
So here's how you look at marketing though. Here's where it's a little, I agree wholeheartedly with finance. Here's where I look at it a little differently from a marketing perspective, is that marketing, I look into 3 or 4 categories. You have the labor, you have the actual ad spend, and then you have the software that you're purchasing for. You can also throw in their advertisement as well, but we just kind of link it all into the direct spend, right? So right now, our number for revenue per month and our percentage is hovering around 11 to 12%.
All in.
All in. So I just want to be clear. So our labor for the marketing team, plus the spend, plus the software, all in, we're at about 12%. Okay, which is a healthy amount. But here's where you're spot on, is that the idea of adding more franchisees in on that team is that it alleviates Phoenix of the labor and we put more into direct spend. So we stay spending the same amount, but we get a higher return on
where we're wonky
the dollars
on that
being
too
spent.
is of that 11%, 5% is actually going into ad spend as opposed to like the direct labor of the person doing it.
Right. And so right now, that same labor that could be justified as like, hey, we're a little top heavy, is doing things for us that allows us to grow outwardly for Trainual, which is like over 100 hours of editing now. And is currently assisting our 4 franchisees and getting our 5th franchisee ready for a grand opening. So it doesn't justify, but like here's what I'd like to do, because the attention is where I struggle, and I've never ran an agency. Where I struggle is, does adding one more franchisee who, and I'm not saying it's copy and paste as in like it's no extra work.
It's easier than bringing on a company that has no assets, for sure.
No assets, different needs. Hey, I don't even know what I want for my brand to look like. We've had people ask the marketing team that are like, hey, can you just copy and paste the logo on the website and put it on a door hanger? And they were like, what do you want for copy? And they're like, what's copy? It's like, well, what else do you want on the door hanger? They're like, well, you guys tell me. So it's like, it's all those little things that go into like the actual end product being fulfilled. And so where I've never struggled with this, because you've always pushed me to a limit where I say, where could I spend and maximize my time the most? And I think the question that you asked, James, wearing the owner hat, I think that's been the most effective question that you've asked me. Like, Evan, let's say like you buy me out, you said this, what would you do differently? And I had like 2 things in my mind that I would do differently. And I didn't say, at the time I was like, it was an ego. And I was like, nothing, literally nothing. You're like, you would change nothing if you were 100% on the line for payroll, accidents, attorneys, whatever. And I'm like, nothing, Cam. Like 2 things came to mind right away. This is now me confessing. Yeah, I'm confessing now. Okay. So here's where I'd say, like, to the average, not the average, but just like the listeners out there, where I love having Cameron as my partner and where you now offer yourself through the 1% Club is, most people, when they want to meet or they want a consultant, they just want another person to have like a good sounding board. And when you go talk to your spouse that's not in the business and they're just like, I don't know, like just fire everyone, whatever. It's like, it's not healthy dialogue back and forth. And what you've always done is that you climb up to these pinnacles of accomplishment, and you can say, hey, step here, step there. And I think in my dumber moments, I'm like, no, Cam, I can't step there, whatever. But here's what I'd say is that you have to find people that help broaden your understanding of certain principles. And I think that's what Tommy does for you, but also like, especially for me, being in like the actual granularities of the business, is seeing him say like, my CSR does this, 60 calls, your CSR does 20. It's like, oh yeah, that's just slave labor right there. But then it's like, do they quit? No, because he found a way to get them to 60 to make the same $22, $21 an hour. But there's this production pay that he gives them where they're making an extra $1,500, $2,000 a month. And so it's finding this weird level in this weird line of, how much do I get for the squeeze, and how much over time is this person going to be happier? Are they going to be more upset? And I've always said, like, no matter how hard this gets for me, like, I'm not quitting. Just tell me like what else is next? What do I have to do? And I think too many business owners are out there that don't challenge your employees. And I don't want you guys to leave this podcast thinking like, hey, like anytime Cameron gives me a little advice, it's not received well. But this is a topic that he's very adamant about. And I guess I could say I am as well, to not challenge. And I feel like everyone needs to go out and look at your current employee base and say like, what do you do all day? What is your true capacity to perform in this job? And then it's your responsibility as an owner and as a leader to hold them to that standard.
Yeah.
And these little, not even disagreements, but these little disagreements where it's like, I'm right, you're wrong. If you actually just step back and you look at it hip to hip and you put it on a whiteboard and say, what's the best for the business and how do we scale profitably? I'm always going to defer to you.
Well, I just think that, again, going back to how we started, like, we can have our cake and eat it too. Like, everyone can win. And that's where I know it's our problem, because, and I don't know, and I know I've asked you this, but it's like, if we have Elsa who's one of our creative directors, right? Very extremely talented, makes however much money, more than an editor. If we have her editing at all, like, it's a waste of time for us. And that could be spent on other people's brand franchises. And that's where I know, like, and that's where I know our team's busy. I don't think they're on TikTok, on Instagram all day, like picking their nose over there. And that's where you go in there and you say, hey, let me help you elevate like what we're doing, because we have our whole team, if we're talking about marketing now, is like really high level, expensive people because they're really good, but they're doing 15 an hour jobs most of the time, if I had to guess. Sure, and so that's where I'm saying, dude, let's change it. Like, and so when we bring in a client, I've thrown out the 2,500 number, maybe it's $3,000, but it's like, if you could have that person, it's the same thing you and I do with our life. Like, I look at, and Liz, my wife, always laughs at me, you know, because believe it or not, dude, my life is crazier than ever. We've talked about this. If I got back from Tommy on Thursday and I'm like, Liz, and Joey's going to laugh. He's the first time he's heard this. I'm like, I'm going to test out Joey for a driver for a month. I'm like, I'm going to have him come and help me drive, dude, because I drive on average about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. If I had 2 more hours a day,
emails, texting, calls,
I haven't like been that confident. That's why I haven't talked to Joey yet about it. But it's like, dude, if he could help drive me and I get 2 more hours a day or an hour and a half, that could be huge for me, because right now it's like I'm going. I feel like I have no time left in my day, but I'm driving an hour and a half. And so of those times I'm driving, I'm on the calls, and that feels a little bit productive. But some of the times I'm texting and driving, and I hate that. But I'm sidetracked. Like, if I was locked in the back driving, and Liz is like, oh, you're on your Tommy kick again. Like, you know, you go around Tommy and he's got the chef, he's got the house cleaner, he's got the, you know, driver, he's got the 2-3 assistants. It's like, dude, because he's figured out his time. And that's what I feel like we've failed our team in the accounting and the marketing side of, like, I know they're busy, but we haven't shown them how to be busy and productive and have everything that we want.
Yeah.
And that's like what I want for Coconut.
And that's what I would finish in saying, is that you have to have that balance. You have to have, but I would also say where I know that what you're trying to do is fair, is that it's not always about streamlining, and efficiencies aren't always about getting everything from a single person, but it's what can I offload from you of cheap labor.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, breaking point, maybe if you don't pay them any extra. If I go to you and say, Heaven, I want you to take on another 40 hours worth of work and you're not going to make anything, like, that's rude. But if I say, hey, I'm taking out 50%, bring on these people, and I'm going to add 50%, but you're going to have an opportunity to make more money.
Right.
That's when everyone gets excited. Because here's my theory too. And this was my challenge with Lexi, is like, I don't care how good you are. And I finally got her to admit this at the end. I'm like, you can't spend 8 hours a day on my personal brand. You just can't and be productive. Like, you're going to burn out with ideas. If you have a couple other people in here, different companies, different brands, and I've talked to Joey about this. It's like, dude, I think you should help manage 3 or 4 other brands. It might give you ideas that they get, and your like creative juices might flow better with having other people around you, and it helps subsidize your pay. So everyone's winning, because imagine having to focus on Cameron's brand for 8 hours a day. That'd be pretty rough.
Right.
Those guys are doing it on Coconut. Come every single day and get creative on Coconut. It's tough.
It is tough. I think bottom line is for anyone to start taking a look in the mirror first. What am I doing all day? Do I send the proper message to my people? I know that we have friends that, you know, run businesses, and I just know that they got to a certain level of success and now they're out hunting, they're out doing all this stuff, and then they just show up in the office and just they think that that's going to maximize productivity. And I think you always need somebody in there setting the tone for what you want people to expect, because on average, people will do about 20% less than you in terms of their energy and their attitude towards a certain topic. And so I think all of us entrepreneurs and leaders in any organization need to get better at maximizing people's time and helping them share in the ROI that comes from maximizing their time.
it's our job to do that. And that's where like I get disgusted in us, because I'm not mad at Kate. I'm not mad at James. Like, we've failed them because we haven't shown them how to like get out of the rat race of like, they think and they are like, they're doing everything we asked them to do, but it's our job to continue to elevate them. You know, Tommy brought in Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time, and he said, come audit my whole life. And that's when Tommy started doing all of his systems and policies and hiring all his people and slowly buying back 30 minutes of his day every single day. And now he's running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Like, that's what you need to do for your employees. But if you just set it and forget it, like, yeah, they're going to be busy, but they might be doing $10 an hour, worth of labor when they're getting paid 30 or 40.
Totally.